I am Minachi. Zaweyemi Omotolani. Ella Tata. Muchemini.
Today we'll talk about the first one. No poverty. Have you ever stopped to think about what exactly is poverty?
Poverty is a state or a condition in which a person or a community lacks the financial resources and other essentials for a minimum standard of living. Poverty-stricken people and families might go without proper housing, clean water, healthy food, and medical attention.
Eradicating poverty in all its forms remains one of the greatest challenges facing humanity. While the number of people living in extreme poverty dropped by more than half between 1919 and 2015, too many are still struggling.
Based on all these factors, we can see that poverty goes far beyond the lack of income and resources. It's a situation that results in people not having a dignified and happy life.
As of 2015, about 736 million people still lived on less than $1.9 a day.
Rapid growth in countries such as China and India has lifted millions out of poverty, but progress has been uneven. Women are more likely to be poor than men because they have less paid work, education, and own less property.
10% of the world's population lived in extreme poverty in 2013. In 2012, the extreme poverty reached 12.4 globally, and over the year, the number of people living below the international poverty line of 1 in the 19th century fell by 1.4 million.
The SDGs are a bold commitment to finish what we started and end poverty in all forms and dimensions by 2030.
This involves targeting the most vulnerable, increasing basic resources and services, and supporting communities affected by conflicts and climate-related disasters.
Did you know that 736 million people still live in extreme poverty?
Did you know that the majority of poor people are children and women?
10% of the world's population lives in extreme poverty, down to 36% in 1990.
Did you know that 1 in 4 children around the world have stunted growth due to poor nutrition?
Some 1.3 billion people live in multidimensional poverty.
Half of all people living in poverty are under 18. 1 in every 10 is extremely poor.
According to data from the United Nations, almost half of the world's population lives in these conditions. That's a lot of people, right? That's why the first Sustainable Development Goal at the international level is to end poverty around the world and improve the lives of millions of people.
Everybody can help to make sure that we meet the global goals. Use these 7 targets to create action to end poverty in all its forms. Target 1.1. Eradicate extreme poverty. By 2030, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, currently measured by people living on less than $1.25 a day.
Target 1.2. Reduce poverty by at least 50%. By 2030, reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all ages living in poverty in all its dimensions according to national definition.
Target 1.3. Implement social protection systems. Implement nationally appropriate social protection systems and measures for all, including floors, and by 2030, achieve substantial coverage of the poor and the vulnerable.
Target 1.4. Equal rights to ownership, basic services, technology, and economic resources. By 2030, ensure that all men and women, in particular the poor and vulnerable, have equal rights to economic resources, as well as access to basic services, ownership and control over land and other forms of property, inheritance, natural resources, appropriate new technology and financial services, including microfinance.
Target 1.5. Build resilience to environmental, economic, and social disasters. By 2030, build the resilience of the poor and those in vulnerable situations and reduce their exposure and vulnerability to climate-related extreme events and other economic, social, and environmental shocks and disasters. Target 1.6. Mobilize resources to implement policies to end of poverty. Ensure significant mobilization of resources from a variety of sources, including through enhanced development corporations, in order to provide adequate and predictable means for developing countries, in particular, at least developed countries, to implement programs and policies to the end of poverty in all dimensions.
Target 1.7. create pro-poor and gender sensitivity policy frameworks, create sound policy framework at the national, regional, and international levels based on pro-poor and gender sensitivity development strategies to support accelerated investment in poverty eradication actions.
Poverty is an international problem. Although the rates of people living in extreme situations are higher in developing countries, the truth is that poverty affects men, women, and children all over the world. To improve this situation, the United Nations has proposed a series of social protection measures to help the most disadvantaged people through the Sustainable Development Goals.
These are the things we can do to reduce poverty. Find a goal, one charity you want to support. Any donation, big or small, can make a difference.
Donate what you don't use. Local charities will give your gentle used clothes, books, and furniture a new life.
Poverty still persists in every country. Over 8% of the world's population lives in extreme poverty. Lend your voice to fight against extreme poverty.
Ensuring children's access to clean water is one of the world's vision's top solutions to poverty.
To reduce poverty, affordable services should be available when and where family needs them. It should include health promotion and prevention, treatment and rehabilitation.
Nourishing babies and young children is one of the best ways to fight poverty. Doing so in this critical window can improve children's well-being for a lifetime.
Eradicating poverty is not a task of charity. It's an act of justice and the key to unlocking an enormous human potential.
Together we can feed the hungry, wipe out diseases, and give everybody in the world a chance to prosper and live a productive and rich life.